We need to be a lot more predictive. We need to understand what the business needs from us, where we need to go. We have to be able to sit at the table and be able to really communicate what we're able to accomplish from a business perspective.
Welcome to WorkSpan TV. I'm Ryan Johnson from WorldatWork. I'm in the studio today talking with two of our Compensation Advisory Board members, Cathy Peffen and Griffin, and we're talking about research that's been conducted by WorldatWork with the Compensation Advisory Board on the changing role of the compensation professional. Now, Cathy, let me ask you, there seems to be maybe some inconsistency in one of the first findings, which talks about how compensation professionals see a greater need to be able to customize compensation packages. But on the other hand, they're also saying there needs to be more consistency. So is that a disconnect, or am I reading it wrong?
No, you're reading it correctly, Ryan. It has been a challenge over the last many years that I've been in compensation as we try to ensure that our business is able to be supported through the compensation programs, that we're trying to define and tailor what works best for parts of the business, for segments, for business lines, for sales versus non-sales types of roles. And what happens is that as we continue to tailor and define that, then we do lose that consistency, which may or may not put us at risk as it relates to being able to defend some of the positions from a regulatory compliance perspective, as well as administratively. It does make it much more difficult for us to administer all these different customizable solutions. So I think we're seeing that more compensation professionals are trying to come to grips with how they take these two truly different philosophies and processes, and through sensible standardization try to marry them such that they can put a template or a shell together that allows each of the businesses to be able to pull the levers that they need to make the solution right for their organization.
Now, the survey has a lot of data, a lot of questions, a lot of depth, and we're obviously not going to have time in this short segment to talk about the whole thing, so I'll just encourage the viewer to go find the research. But one of the major findings is around communication, Julie, and it seems like every year this is a perennial thing that the reward professional needs to learn how to communicate employee rewards better. So maybe you can just share with us for a minute about what this survey revealed.
The surprising piece of this was that every year companies want to communicate better. And in the survey we saw, yeah, we're not doing much of that today, and by the way, we've got to focus a lot more on it in the future. So that's been a consistent theme over the last many years. One of the things that I think companies are doing more of is leveraging the manager. Manager-employee relationship is extremely important. The employee trusts that supervisor, and managers having the communication and understanding around pay and delivering that message is more impactful, more meaningful to the employee, increases pay perceptions to a great degree, as well as engagement and retention. So a lot of companies are looking at how can we educate managers, equip them with the capabilities to provide those messages.
Julie, do you have one or two tips about how to better equip line managers to be able to communicate about compensation?
Sure, it's really basic fundamentals around compensation programs and design philosophy that a company has put in place, and understanding how comp programs are designed, how market information is collected, what the philosophy of the company's pay programs are, how do we position our pay relative to the market, and being able to translate that for the employee in terms of the pay decisions that they have to make for that employee, and what they can look forward to in terms of future progression with respect to pay.
So some organizations still just need to do the basics with their line managers about compensation, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I think some organizations do it probably very well, and some organizations still live kind of in a black box. So when you have a black box, we all know that employees make assumptions, and certainly they're not always accurate.
Cathy, another part of this survey I want to get to is around skills and the skill sets that the compensation professional may need today. What does the survey say about that?
Well, the survey is indicating that we have to change our skill set, and in a number of different ways. The first one is interestingly enough, we're asking for a broader scope of compensation practices. At the same time, we're asking for another, a double-edged sword here for specialists. So we're finding that as teams grow smaller, or as we need the ability to be able to move folks from one project or one business to another, we need to be able to have them experience and be able to deliver a broad base of compensation programs. The flip side of it is that we still need those subject matter expertise, especially in some of the more highly regulated areas, such as the wage and hour compliance, but also within the executive compensation area. And then to piggyback on that, they need those broad skill sets from a technical perspective, but it's now only one piece of the pie. We no longer need to be the analysis and the group that just reacts to the data and then tries to change programs. We need to be a lot more predictive. We need to understand what the business needs from us, where we need to go. We have to be able to sit at the table and be able to really communicate what we're able to accomplish from a business perspective, from a leadership presence.
So you're both executives in the compensation space. I wonder, Julie, if you would offer someone who aspires to be an executive in compensation like you, or maybe your successor, what would you be looking for that person, or what advice would you give them?
I really think it's important to have a natural sense of curiosity. Always ask why, and also be willing to look ahead and not just down in our function. And in times like this, we're heads down, and I think it's important to pause and look up and see what's coming at us versus what we have before us.
Cathy, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it was great what Julie said. The main thing is that we do need to continue to understand the business also. It's not just the data, it's truly the business acumen, such that we can predict where the business is going and what they're expecting and needing from us.
Well, appreciate you both coming in to share both your expertise and wisdom, and thank you for conducting this research with World at Work, the Compensation Advisory Board, Julie Griffin and Cathy Peffen. And the research brief will be available at worldatwork.org, the full brief if you're interested in that. And for WorkSpan TV and World at Work, I'm Ryan Johnson.